rather than, okay, so I've got this piece of paper in front. What am I doing? You know, it's kind of laid out for you. So more about the world. So the Mouse Guard is this organization, and they support the local territories, and some of them are further away from the center. They run the show from their own sort of fortress called Lockhaven at the center of the territories, and then the mice territories sort of stretch out from there. And sort of the remote settlements don't get as much attention because they're just separated by such a enormous distance. But the mice go about and carry out various missions, like I was saying. Missions like uh, reinforcing the scent barrier. Annually, it degrades over time, so they need to reinforce that. Trailblazing, forging new paths between the territories, or clearing up old ones, ridding them of any predators that have set up shop along the way.
And that is really important because remember, you're mice.
Yes, you're mice.
And this isn't like a world of Disney mice where you're mice. You're a mouse. Everybody's a mouse. And if there are any humans, they're your size.
No.
So I mean, clearing up the thing for predators can be huge, because you're playing a mouse in this game, and again, a snake or a weasel or a fox or something can come through and totally wreck your whole town.
Well, it's good you mentioned weasels, because weasels are an antagonist creature in the Mouse Guard, but oddly enough, they're the only other. I mean, they're limited. Actually, no. As far as I've read in the comic books, the weasels are the only other sort of anthropomorphic race in the Mouse Guard.
So they're the only ones that have gone sapient.
Yes, they're vaguely, I think, Persian in terms of their dress and their sort of stylings.
That's almost racist.
Almost racist.
Because again, the Mouse Guard and the other mice of like Barkstone and everywhere else, they're kind of Eastern European, so you get that Persian feel about it.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, there's 300 mice protecting a sewer grate. And
oh, I'm totally gonna do that. I'm totally gonna do 300 in the Mouse Guard. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
they've all got cloaks.
This is Lockhaven.
Absolutely.
Would a mouse have a six-pack? I don't know. Anyway,
That'd be a fuzzy six-pack, So they occasionally come to blows with the weasels. The weasels have slowly over the years infiltrated mice territory, and the weasels are quite a bit bigger than the mice. So they're 2 to 3 times the size of the mice. Actually, no, even more than that.
weasels are about like 5 to 10 times.
Yeah.
Depending on the mouse.
And even more, you can sort of empathize with these tiny adorable mice, and everything pretty much is bigger than them. The only thing smaller than them is bugs. And that's really cool. That's
and again, if you guys pick up the books, like the comic books or the role playing game, the art really supports this. I mean, they look like little mice. I mean, I'm looking at one of the comic books now, and there's this little mice that's in the common mouse trades of the world of Mouseguard. And there's this poor miller like pushing a wheel like he's Conan. Just like, oh, I gotta make this grain so that the baker can make the bread, and I don't have to go out and scavenge. But yeah, I mean, it's just little bitty touches in the fluff of this book, and you got the big-eyed guard fighting like centipedes, like 3 guards against centipedes, and most of the things that we would normally see, like if we would consider it lunch or a pet, it's a threat in Mouseguard, and that's huge.
Yeah, and Mouseguard has a sense. I get the feeling of a sort of a Miyazaki film where the mice are using the tiny world they live in, and logical revolutions in terms of engineering and logistics are made from that small point of view. Case in point, smaller insects like beetles are used as beasts of burden.
Yeah.
They carry loads, and things like that. Beekeeping is a dangerous but very important trade. They still use honey, but beekeeper, when the bee is about half or a third of the size of you, it's kind of a big deal. And
Because they still sting, and that.
yeah, for sure. So, being that you start from such a small and weak position, it's all the more important that you band together. So teamwork and trust is a really big issue, really big deal in the Mouseguard, and is one of the sort of resonant themes of the entire game.
Well, that's some good stuff, man. Seriously. Now, I want to take a minute to talk about role playing in general. Role playing groups and stuff. It's really important, especially when it comes to the Mouseguard narrative. Is it's really difficult as far as being in a campaign where you have that one player that doesn't want to get in line with everybody else. With Mouseguard, the stories kind of take a hit when it's the story is about the mice, the three mice, the three mice that are essentially doing the whole Nordic version of the Three Musketeers, like we said earlier. And then you got the one guy that's like, I'm a baker. And it's like, then why are you with this mission? Well, I want to be a baker. So yeah, you're being a burden.
Yeah, by unifying a group, in the sense that everyone's a guard mouse. You can be a baker because every guard mouse has to have a trade.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important that every guard mouse has a trade. Your trades, your friends, your foes, this all ties in. It is all very important. There's not going to be a game that goes by when you don't use these things. So you can. It's welcoming those kinds of players into the fold, so to speak, and at the same time showing them that being contrary, that you can still play even if you're going to be contrary, or the game thinks around the contrariness, whereas say Dungeons and Dragons, you can't be a baker. I mean, you can, but you're just a baker. What do? Everyone draws their sword, someone casts a spell, you bake bread.
That's hey man, I've got a baguette.
Yeah. Watch out.
Back up, dragon. I got a steel baguette. This is a +3 steel baguette. So.
I've got an épée. You mean the sword? No, I mean the loaf.
But the one thing that we haven't talked about in Mouseguard right now is one thing I'd like to talk about in Mouseguard right now is the monetary system, the economics. The currency of the mice. Now this is big because again, it is based on that whole communist utopia type thing where everybody helps everybody else. But one of the things I didn't notice, and I guess this comes out in game mechanics, but I didn't notice in the stories that I read them buying anything.
They don't actually. The game has a system for resources that's sort of nebulous and vaguely defined. But there's no way mice would really have minted money. So presumably everything works on sort of a barter system.
And that would make sense since they're all like in a village and everybody is going to need something from someone at some point.
Yeah, and again, this is where your trade comes in big. So players draw from their resources. So there's no way to walk in and purchase all these advantages at the beginning of the game where you come in as a fabulously wealthy what's his shits. That's not a thing. You have your circles, you have your resources, and that's it. The game is structured around the player's turn and then the game master's turn. The game master's turn is where play takes finger quotes takes place, where the players the game master presents obstacles in the course of this mission, and the players try to overcome them or circumvent them. Then you get to the player's turn, which is there's a structured system in the game for downtime, where you need to rest and recover and try to get more allies, try to get more resources, whatever. So there's sort of a give and take system to Mouseguard, and in that the rules are very light, you get to fill a lot of it with good, solid roleplay. Ideally, I'm sure that there are groups that can just do it wrong, and but for the most part, it's everything in Mouseguard is a great opportunity to roleplay. The setting is very rich. The purpose is unified, which is a huge deal. Very few games these days start with the outset of you're a member of a team and you have a job to do, and here are the things that you have to do for your job. They take that sort of almost banal concept and they make it interesting, because your job is badass. You travel the world, fight things way bigger than you, blaze new trails, and it's just a lot of fun. And the comic book really struck me when I first read it. I was just I saw issue 1 in the store, picked it up, and then I started collecting the graphic novels. It's there's a lot of depth to these fairly iconic characters. You've got the main three in the comic book are Saxon, Kenzie, and Liam. Saxon is the I think he's the hot-blooded guy, always itching for a fight. Then there's Kenzie, who is the bespectacled somewhat elder
old man.
Yeah, calmer.
Really liked him. Really liked him.
And then Liam, the hot-blooded young kid. They sort of fulfill these archetypes.
I got something to prove, so come here and let me punch you.
Yeah, and they make a great example for how to play. And one of the so basing a role-playing game off of a work of fiction, there's sort of, I think Mouseguard does it right, as opposed to
Game of Thrones, for example.
Well, I'm thinking more about the I've played D&D for a long time, and when you get these players in that have read all the R.A. Salvatore novels, and they make a guy who is totally not Drizzt Do'Urden, but totally no. I'm not saying it's Drizzt Do'Urden, but it's Drizzt Do'Urden.
Yeah,
that kind of guy. And
no, this is Dratz Durden.
Yeah, Dratz Durden.
Dratz Durden.
So, you don't really get that with Mouseguard, and I guess it's just because the world to draw from is just, at this point, I believe they're up to 4 graphic novels. Fall 1152, Winter 1150. 2 or 3, I can't remember, and then Legends of the Guards 1 and 2, and that's it. So you don't have this sort of you don't have fanboys. You're not gonna I'm sure that there's a massive Mouseguard fanboy out there somewhere.
I was about to say
who's like Kenzie is my PC. I must have glasses just like his. But
yeah, our comments are going to be lighting up now.
Yeah, it's less likely, and that's a good thing, because you feel less. You're more free to come up with a concept.
Yeah,
that's all of your own, and you pick. It's almost like almost like bullet points, and you're just like this, and this. You're done.
Yeah,
you don't. There's not a whole lot you need to customize.
Yeah, and everything else is kind of like fan fiction, so that it leaves you a whole lot of room for adventuring and seeing where the stories go. Instead of going, I read book 14, and according to book 14, I could do it this way and that and this, and then, arguing game mechanics, and then next thing you know.
Nothing like that. The only caveat I will say about Mouseguard is that the rules are light. In that there's a lot of good fluff here, but there's not a whole heck of a lot of crunch. That puts a fairly heavy workload in the lap of the game master.
Mm.
You do need to be kind of on top of your game in terms of planning out these missions, because stories like this need structure. Structure is what gives them the appeal of that everything sort of works and sort of neatly meshes together.